Summer is supposed to be the happiest time of the year. It's supposed to be full of memories, late nights, laughing with friends, going places, and having stories you'll remember forever. But nobody ever really talks about the summers that just feel empty inside. The summers where the days just feel long and the nights that feel quiet, and you start realizing you're spending more time alone than you've ever expected. The summer's been different. It's been quiet, a little too quiet. I've watched another day pass by one after another, hoping something would change, hoping something exciting would happen, but most days just felt the same. I'd wake up, go through the day, and wonder how everyone else seemed to be making memories while I was just watching life happen from the outside. The hardest part about being alone isn't just having nobody around, it's the feeling that comes with it. It's wondering if people still think about you. It's wondering if anyone has noticed that you've been quieter than usual. It's wanting to reach out but stopping yourself because you don't want to feel like you're bothering people. Sometimes you don't miss a person, you just miss the version of the life you had when they were there. You miss the conversations that used to happen every day. You miss feeling important to someone. You miss having someone tell you random things to because even if they didn't matter, because sometimes the smallest moments are the ones you end up missing the most. It's a strange feeling when you're surrounded by people but you still feel like nobody's really there. I think people underestimate how heavy silence can become. When everything gets quiet, your mind gets louder. You start thinking about every mistake, every person, every time you've lost, every moment you wish you could go back to. You start questioning if things would be different if you were different. Everyone sees a version of you that laughs and acts like everything is fine, but they never see the moments where you feel disconnected. They don't see the nights where you just sit there thinking about how things used to be. The hardest part about feeling alone is knowing you have so much to say, but nobody you feel comfortable saying it to. The summer has taught me that some seasons of life are just lonely. Not every chapter is filled with people who stay. Not every memory gets repeated. Sometimes you have to accept that certain moments are gone, and even if a part of you still wishes they could come back, I miss how things used to feel. I miss when life felt easier. I miss when I didn't have to question where I stood with people. I miss when friendships felt natural. Instead of feeling something I have to fight to keep. And maybe that's the part that hurts the most. Realizing that some people can mean everything to you, but you might not mean anything to them. Sometimes the hardest goodbye isn't leaving someone. It's accepting they already left before you were there. Maybe that's the hardest thing about a quiet summer is that nobody knows it's quiet for you. From the outside, everything looks normal. People assume you're just enjoying your break, relaxing, and having fun, but they don't see the moments where you're sitting there wondering why things feel so different. They don't see the times where you check your phone hoping for a message that never comes. They don't see how much you miss having someone to talk to without feeling like you're forcing a conversation. We miss the version of ourselves that laughed more, the version that didn't overthink everything, the version that felt like they had belonged somewhere. Sometimes you're not missing a person, you're just missing the feeling of not being alone. And that's what makes it difficult. Because memories don't disappear just because people do. You can still remember the laughs, the conversations, the moments that felt like they would last forever. But eventually you realize that some things only existed for a certain time. Some people are only meant to walk beside you for a while. It doesn't mean the memories weren't real. It doesn't mean that they weren't important. It just means life changes, and sometimes it changes without giving you time to prepare. This summer has made me think about a lot of things, about the people I used to talk to, about the moments I took for granted, about how quickly life can go from feeling full to feeling empty. It's weird how I can have so many memories with someone and then one day they become someone I have barely talked to. The sad part about growing up is really realizing that not every goodbye happens with a goodbye. Some endings are silent, some friendships fade slowly, some people leave without ever explaining why, and you're left trying to understand a story that they've already moved on from. I think that's what hurts most, and I think some people haven't really thought about it that far. Not losing someone suddenly, but slowly realizing you've already lost a connection you've had. This summer wasn't filled with huge moments. It wasn't a movie where everything changed overnight. It was just a quiet season where I had a lot of time to think, a lot of time to remember, a lot of time to sit with the feelings I usually try to ignore, and maybe that's why it feels so heavy. Because when everything gets quiet, you can't run from your own thoughts anymore. You start facing the things you've been avoiding, the insecurities, the regrets, the questions you don't have an answer for. You start wondering if things would be different if you were different. If you were funnier, if you were easy to talk to, if you were someone people wanted to stay around. The hardest person to convince that you matter is sometimes yourself. And that's the battle that no one ever sees. But maybe that's the hardest part about silence, isn't the silence itself. It's realizing that life doesn't stop just because you feel stuck. The world keeps moving, people keep changing, new memories are made while old ones slowly become something you can only look back on. And sometimes it feels like you're watching everything happen from a distance, but everyone else has a place where they belong, while you're still just trying to find yours. There are moments where I wish I could go back to when things felt simple, back to when I didn't question every friendship, back to when I didn't have to wonder if people actually wanted me around or if I was just someone they talked to when it was convenient. But time doesn't work like that. You can't keep living in moments that already ended. The hardest thing about letting go isn't losing what you had, it's accepting that you can't bring it back. I think that's what growing up feels like. It's not always some big moment where everything changes. Sometimes it's just slowly noticing that things aren't the same anymore. The people you thought would always be there start becoming memories. The conversations you thought would never end become something you haven't had in months. The places that used to feel familiar start feeling like they belong to a different version of yourself. And maybe that's why the summers felt so strange. Because I wasn't just missing other people, I was missing the person I used to be. The person who didn't overthink every little thing, the person who felt more connected, the person who didn't have to question if they mattered. Sometimes you don't realize you were living in a good moment until it actually becomes a memory. I spent a lot of this summer thinking about what could I have done differently. The things I could have said to people, people I could have held on to, moments I wish I have appreciated more when they were happening. But regrets are strange. They make you believe you can rewrite the past when the only thing you can really do is just carry it with you. So I carry these memories, the good ones, the painful ones, the ones that remind me of people I don't talk to anymore. Because even though they hurt, they were still part of my story. And maybe this chapter isn't about finding all the answers. Maybe it's just about sitting with the questions. Why did things change? Why did people leave? Why did a summer that was supposed to be free end up feeling so empty? I don't know. Maybe that's the part I struggle with. Not having a reason, not having closure, not having memories, and silence. Some of the hardest things to accept are the things you'll never get an explanation for. But maybe there's something I've been forgetting this whole time. Maybe this quiet summer wasn't only about what I lost, maybe it's also about what I found out about myself. Because even in the lonely moments, I started learning things about myself that I never would have learned if everything stayed the same. I learned that I can get through days that feel heavy. I learned that I can keep moving when even no one is pushing me forward. I learned that my own company doesn't have to be something that I'm afraid of. Being alone gave me time to think. Also gave me time to reflect on the person I am and the person I want to become. Maybe I didn't have the summer filled with endless memories and constant plans, but that doesn't mean it was meaningless. Sometimes the quiet seasons are the ones where you grow the most. A flower doesn't stop growing just because nobody is watching it bloom. I started realizing that my life isn't defined by who stayed or who left. The people who walked away are still a part of my story, but they don't get to decide how the story ends. There are still things ahead of me that I haven't experienced. There are still people I haven't met. There are still memories I haven't made. And maybe that's something worth holding on to. Because a bad chapter doesn't mean the whole book is ruined. A lonely season doesn't mean every season will feel this way. Sometimes life gets quiet, but it's preparing you for something you haven't reached yet. I still miss certain people. I still will miss certain moments. I still wish I can go back to days where things were perfect and things were everything I wanted it to be. But I'm starting to understand that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means appreciating what happened and accepting that it has changed, allowing yourself to keep growing. The summer wasn't what I imagined. It wasn't full of everything I hoped for, but it gave me something I needed. It gave me time to slow down and to understand myself. Time to realize that even when nobody is around, I'm still someone worth fighting for. And when the next chapter comes, I hope I remember this one. Not because it was lonely, but because it showed me that I can make it through the quiet. Sometimes the strongest versions of ourselves are built in moments no one ever sees. So maybe the summer was quiet. Maybe it was different. Maybe, but maybe that doesn't mean it was wasted. Maybe it was just the beginning of something new. Maybe that's what I needed to learn from this summer. Not every season of life is going to be filled with people, laughter, and perfect moments. Sometimes you're just going to have quiet days where all you have is yourself. But maybe that isn't always a bad thing, because in the silence, you can hear your own thoughts, you start understanding yourself, you start realizing that even when nobody is around to remind you of your worth, you still have value. The summer might have not been one that I dreamed of, and it might have been a low expectation. But one day I'll look back and realize that the quiet moments weren't there to break me. They were there to prepare me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I am so grateful for every single one of you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Peace.